Hello, everyone. It's once again Nintendo podcast time. I would say video game podcast, but we have not done one of these, or I have not done a spoiler cast or sort of podcast on my YouTube channel that does not involve Nintendo video games in some way. Gotta get around to fixing that. But anyway, I've got my usual co hosts here, Lid and Eli.
What is up?
Wahoo!
Yeah. Uh, Lid said, "What is up?" Eli said, "Wahoo," just for, clarity in case you don't know. And so, as of the time we are recording this, we are basically 3 weeks from the proper. Here's the thing, the Switch 2, and the games you can expect for it, and all of the other details you need to know before launch direct. Which I am very excited for, and I'm once March hit, it's like, oh, we're actually close now. Like, it feels real. So I decided something I've been wanting to do for a while. If you've been watching the prediction streams, is that I've been wanting to do this, but turns out the Switch 2 took a lot longer to come out than I thought it would. But we're finally here. Actually, before we go over year by year, I think the best way to start is to broadly say, compared to other Nintendo consoles and other systems, how do you feel about the Switch? Now, as someone who has only played Switch games through alternative means, I have maybe a slightly different perspective than Lid or Eli. But I do feel
What
like
means are those, Andy? We have Miyamoto on the line. What would you like to say to him? Anything?
uh yar har har. Um
Uh,
but I would like to I would just like to say that I consider the Switch overall to be like a top three Nintendo system. Yeah, there are definitely things about it that seem frustrating. There are definitely like the online in certain ways. People have problems with the controllers. I have heard Lid bitch about how much he hates the UI for 8 years now. For 8 years now. Um,
Yep.
but like just in terms of like first party video games and even third party support, the Switch is incredibly strong. I wouldn't say it's like consistently year over year, but the Switch has had enough really good years to like be like, yeah, this is one of Nintendo's best systems. No if and or buts about it. Eli, would you like to go next?
yeah. I guess first for context, I've owned every Nintendo system from the N64 onward.
Did you own
I
an
mean, also, I
original Game
guess
Boy or just color?
original Game Boy that I quickly traded up into color.
That makes sense.
So yeah, I've had every console and handheld since then in some way or another. And my thoughts on the Switch, which I did not get at launch, and we can get into that later, is that it is very, very good for its first party games, even if in some aspects it does not have my favorites of those. Um, but in terms of its third party games, that is something I'm a little bit more mixed on.
Yeah.
If I have one thing that I'd say is the biggest mistake for me for the Switch, it's not the UI, it's not the controllers, it's that everything was $60 without a price drop, and other than
Yeah.
like an occasional sale for
Yeah.
40.
It's
And that hurts based on how Nintendo was good about that. How after a few years, games would go down to 20 if it was a
there is
big
a
hit.
very good chance that if we do not get like a Nintendo Select style thing by the end of this year, then they're never going to drop the price of Switch games.
Yeah, I was a late adopter on the Wii U, and I was getting that shit for nothing.
Yeah.
Remember, this is gonna.
I
Do you
bought a Wii
remember
U in
when like
2015. I got everything for
the,
like pennies on the dollar.
when
It
the
felt like.
Tropical Freeze and Pikmin, and I think they did it again when the Pikmin 3 remaster came out, and they delisted the Wii U versions from the eShop?
Yes,
Laughable, laughable. So before,
but
unless, well,
I am
okay,
positive on the Switch overall, despite what I just said.
yeah, that makes sense. But before Lid goes, I would just like to say that I owned my first Nintendo system was a GBA. I owned both a Wii and DS, and both a Wii U and 3DS, and I still own both of the latter two devices. Um, but I did not own a GameCube, and certainly nothing before that. Lid.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to Eli in that I grew up with N64 and have had every Nintendo system since. Of course, it reached a certain point where it was not the family has this and is I'm buying this myself now, right? But um,
Yeah,
and that was the Wii U and 3DS was the first ones. The 3DS was like one of the first things I bought when I got my first job, and the Wii U was like the first thing I saved up for.
The Wii U was the first
um,
device Lid got when they got their first HD TV.
that's true. It was the reason I got an HD TV. Um, and as far as systems go, where the Switch fits in, I definitely don't think that it's a bad one. But then again, how many Nintendo systems are?
Uh,
Um,
yeah, like honestly, there are some that I think have more problems, but the only system I can look at and be like, yeah, you're outright bad is Virtual Boy. You have one cool game. That's it. Um,
yeah, like the Switch definitely, as time went on, it has a strong library of a specific kind of title, and there definitely are a pretty good handful of interesting games that set it apart from just being the new machine to play Mario on. But I do think that it's maybe closer to the middle.
hmm, one
And I
second.
will I will also say, as far as what Eli was saying about the games not decreasing in price, it's so bad that like there are games that went on sale like 4 or 5 years ago and have never dropped to that price again since.
I wanna ask Eli if he is aware of something. So you know how Nintendo had the voucher system for like a year, and where I was like, you buy two games for two full price games or whatever, you get $10 off or whatever. Like they're $100. You know how that went away and then came back like 2 years ago?
sure.
It never went away for Europe or the rest of the world. It was just a North America thing.
Amazing.
Do you know what I
Thanks,
think is the
Doug.
funniest thing about those vouchers?
What?
There are games that are like $40 on the eligible list. So you could pay $100 for two vouchers and then redeem them both for $40
Yeah,
games
I
and just
guess
lose
I
20
guess the
bucks.
best thing I can say is like, well, they do work with Tears of the Kingdom, so that's like kind of value. Now you're saving
I
30
Yeah.
actually I
dollars.
pre-ordered Tears of the Kingdom, but it was 60, and it was on
Oh,
it.
that's
So
that's the win. That's the win. When did
yeah,
was it? When did you pre-order it? Was it?
it was right before it seemed like, hey, they might raise this price. Let's put in the
Oh,
pre-order right now.
oh, okay. I was wondering if you got it in 2019 or whatever, but no, no. Okay.
No,
So since all of us, we have not talked about it inversely, all of us were Wii U and 3DS owners, and more importantly for this conversation, Wii U owners going into the Switch. I think it's a good idea to kind of look back. It is hazy. Look back to 2016 and how we sort of felt about Nintendo versus how they have achieved our expectations. Um, for me, I mean, we knew leaks-wise that it was going to be a hybrid console in some sort. I think by, like, at least 6 months before they actually showed the fucking thing. Um, and were either of you two paying attention that much to NX rumors? Do you remember?
Oh, let's not dwell on this too much, but I do remember watching a good few Review Tech USA videos on the subject.
I think he's gone, by the way. I think his YouTube channel no longer exists.
I'm
What a
still waiting on the
shame.
NX reveal. Like the Switch was cool, but I'm giving the NX when they dropping that.
I will also say, since I love giving wrong predictions. Would you like? I did not write these down. This is just off of memory. Would you like to hear what I guessed? The Switch. Well, actually, before we do that, what was your reaction to the initial reveal trailer? Because I was like, oh, because I remember they announced it the night after the 2016 VP debate. They just posted the tweet of Mario looking behind the shower and were like, see it 9 a.m. or whatever. I was like, what the fuck? Okay. So,
I don't really remember like the Switch reveal all too well, to be honest. And I think it's part of that is what you said. Like Nintendo didn't really have the best marketing arm back in
I do
2016.
remember that trailer.
And
Um,
I mean, I remember the final like Breath of the Wild like reveal that okay, this is going to be coming to Wii U and the new console, the Switch, but I
yes.
don't remember
Yes, because
much
that was
else.
the big thing. Their E3 in 2016. They had a day 2 where they focused on some 3DS and smaller stuff. But for day 1, it was just like 8 hours of Breath of the Wild coverage. And I will say, God, that first trailer, every trailer Breath of the Wild got was amazing, regardless of how we feel about that game. Um, I wanna the Switch reveal trailer I remember being very well. There are a couple important things. One was that was when we got the first look at Odyssey. I think they showed off a little bit of like Mario jumping around the Tostada Kingdom. And people were like, "Is that a new game? I think that's a new game." But they also showed Mario Kart 8 and people were like, "Is that a new Mario Kart? I can't tell." And the big third party thing they showed off was Skyrim. However, do you remember the drama around that lid?
I don't.
The fake drama was that Bethesda did not officially confirm. Well, we can't say anything about Skyrim on the Switch. So extremely gullible people were like, "Is Nintendo faking third-party titles they don't have on the Switch? Is this like?" And that
That would
was
have been so funny.
That would have been the funniest fucking thing of all time. Like, imagine if Skyrim didn't come to the Switch. Um, it's just sorry, it didn't work out. Um,
But here's Oblivion.
yeah,
You know, the world would be a better place.
it is weird you can't play that on modern consoles that aren't an Xbox. Can't play it on P.
That is weird.
Um, but okay, so I remember thinking my predictions for how the Switch 2's like lifetime sales. I think within like 6 years, maybe longer than the Wii U. Because remember when I had a pessimistic figure and an optimistic figure. So the pessimistic figure I remember thinking was like 35 to 40 million. Like worst case scenario, I was like, it's gonna do double Wii U and like sell an Xbox. Optimistic, I was like, well, yeah, best case scenario probably does like 85, 90 mil. Like it does better than the 3DS, but like it's not gonna outsell the Wii probably. Um, I will say this on my dumb pre-Switch opinion takes on that. I feel like after like the 2017 E3, which we'll talk about 2017 in a second, there was this sense I did like be like, oh yeah, this could outsell the Wii. This could outsell the Wii. But I, until like 2 years ago, was like, there's no fucking way the Switch outsells the DS. That sold 150 million copies. The old consoles. The only other thing that came close to that was PS2. Like, come on.
I,
And
even before the system was out, kind of thought that there was a chance that the Switch could outsell the Wii and or DS. And the reason for that is because most of the people that I heard talking about it in real life were not people who were excited to play Nintendo games. They were people who were like, "Wow, you could play Skyrim. You could play like a real video game portably." You know, like it was a lot of, and you saw these kinds of videos from like Linus Tech Tips type people around the time. There was a lot of conversation about the Switch, almost less as a traditional gaming platform and more as like a tech toy.
Yes. And we'll talk about when and how that diminished, because I think it was a series of games as people realized, oh, this thing isn't as powerful as we hoped it would be. Um, that is definitely true. I will say one thing on the sales is the only reason I think the Switch is going to outsell the DS is because of COVID bump. Like, if it didn't have that, you're probably looking at like max like 120, 130, which is still insane. But
yeah,
a little more reasoned. So I guess let's talk about like the first, like, everything up to E3. So like the games that came out on that. Obviously, you had third-party titles like Snipper Clips, which, by the way, I believe the developers of Snipper Clips, if you remember what that game is, also made Crow Country.
Yep.
correct.
And they made some Flash games too.
Yeah, and oh, Splatoon 2 was later than I thought. I forgot that was after E3, but so you had 1-2 Switch, which they really charged $50 for 1-2 Switch. And I mean, hey, it sold like 6 million copies, I think, which is like absolutely above profit. Well, everybody
Did you
loves
say
one.
$50?
I believe it was 50. Was it 60?
I was gonna say because if 50 is like that's so nice of them for giving a discount on a game that will never happen again.
No, I mean, yes, you're right, but they've done that for smaller party games. Like, I don't think either of the WarioWares or Mario parties that have come out on the Switch were full price. I think that like first Wario Land that came out in like, or WarioWare that came out in like 2021, I think that would have been like 30 or 40. So
I,
like
I
you're right, but like
no, those Mario parties are $60, Andy.
oh, okay, fair enough. But I know like WarioWare was not 60. So they have done it sporadically. Um, the big thing, of course, was Breath of the Wild, which I did not play until years later. Now, Eli, I know what Lid's answer to this question is, but I'm curious what yours is. What console did you first play Breath of the Wild on?
So we're in March of 2017, and I say to myself, I don't need a Switch. They don't have any games right now besides Breath of the Wild. I can get it on a Wii U, and I did. And that statement was not 100% true for the first couple of years, but honestly, I don't think I was wrong for saying that for the first couple of years, because with a couple exceptions, there aren't that many, and we'll get into why, I guess. But I did play that on a Wii U. I later did play that game on Switch, and honestly, it only looks like marginally better. Like
Yes.
it was really the same
Lid
experience.
also played it on Wii U. Did you buy it twice, or did you like rent it from the library or something?
I bought it twice, but the Switch copy was much cheaper than $60.
Okay.
It was 30.
I bought it twice because when I got a Switch, the only way to get it was in a bundle with that game.
I
It's
will say
crazy to
there are
remember.
several games I own for the Switch that I bought used, and the only reason I bought that is because it was during COVID.
It's crazy to remember. Oh yeah, Nintendo used to do bundles for the Switch that weren't exactly Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Well, no, it wasn't. It wasn't a Nintendo packaged this bundle. It was a GameStop and other retailers will not sell you the thing on its
that
own.
makes sense, given that I think for like the first couple months, Breath of the Wild had a 100% attach rate among Switch owners, which makes sense. I mean, Fast Racing Neo was cool, and there was also a Bomberman game at launch, but there was like not many games of the launch of the Switch. Of course, this was Nintendo's like strategy of like, no, we're gonna trickle things out through the year. I remember 2017, not just for E3, but like, now part of this is that unlike Eli, I think they managed to end the year off with a fantastic 3D Mario game that justified the console's existence. But I think 2017 was a very good year. But I would agree that like the first half of the Switch's life, on average, was weaker than the second half. I did not play Breath of the Wild. I did get caught up in the marketing, and I gotta say, just narratively, it felt very good to be someone who cared a lot about Nintendo games in 2017. It's like, oh, thank God, they're not a trash fire anymore. They're not the laughing stock of the industry.
They're like I definitely understand that from a broader sense of how people are talking about it.
Yes.
But I'm going to be honest, like after I finished Breath of the Wild, it's not like I like outright disliked it or anything. But there were definitely Wii U games that I liked more in my collection.
I definitely get that, and I would not say that I would say that it totally made sense to wait a year or two for the Switch 2. Or for the Switch.
Well, by the time I got it, I'd say it made sense to me.
When did you get it again?
But we'll get to that.
Okay, I'm excited to find this out. This is a mystery.
I know.
Yeah, Lid, I remember you know, kind of liked it, but we're not the biggest fan of Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. It's it's kind of like you on stuff. I basically felt the way that I did about the Phantom Pain when it came out. Not quite as bad because of the
you didn't stop playing video
differences in the
games
stories of the games. But in terms of the gameplay, I very much felt like, okay, this is one of the best open world games ever made. And that means it's still not that great.
Yeah, I get that sentiment. I like Breath of the Wild, having played it first, I think in 2023. But the game does have problems. It is not my favorite Zelda, and I think Tears of the Kingdom is a better experience. Going into this, before we go any further, I meant to bring it up earlier, but it makes sense to sort of talk about it. How do you guys feel about the Joy-Cons?
You know,
I'm sorry. Go on.
I don't think that I have played a game using Joy-Cons in like 6 years.
Did you ever like? What is the longest amount of time you have spent playing a game with a Joy-Con on its side, like for like maximum in a session?
Like maybe 10 minutes of the Luigi's Mansion 3 like party games.
I played Smash with single Joy-Con and not great.
Yeah, that I cannot
a suboptimal experience.
I have not done that, but there was a point in my life where as a kid playing Brawl, sometimes you had to be the kid who played Brawl with a Wiimote on his side, and that I imagine is maybe slightly worse or better. I'm not sure.
I'd say the Wiimote's probably better.
Yeah. Although the A and B buttons on that were awkward. How do you feel about the Pro controller? Eli, you start since Lid gave the first opinion on Joy-Cons.
I like the Pro controller. It's comfortable. But I did not get it until pretty late. So
Okay. Lid.
I like it. It's not my favorite Nintendo controller. It's a bit more square than the Wii U Pro controller. I do like that the buttons are big. I think that they are bigger than like any first party controller from like the past decade or more.
How do you feel about that D-pad though?
Oh, for most things, it's fine. Like, if we're being honest, I feel like there really hasn't been. Honestly, wow, if I like actually think about it, I don't think there's been a Nintendo controller with a good D-pad since the N64.
Wow, you don't like the GBA or DS's D-pads?
I mean, they get the job done for a handheld, but they're still too small.
The Wiimotes is too small. I think, you know what has a pretty good D-pad? The original classic controller.
I don't know. I still feel
It's
like it just kind of has that thing that Nintendo D-pads still have, where like they're just like a flat surface. There's no like texture to it or anything.
Hmm. Hmm. I see. I see. Uh, uh Eli. You know, on average, how much, do you like? How do you use your Switch? Is it mostly handheld, mostly console, or 50-50? Like, what's the average, right?
So what Lid said about not having used Joy Cons in several years, that is me with playing the Switch in handheld mode. That just does never happen.
That is also true with Lid, I am aware.
Yeah, I bought a Switch Lite because I cannot
We'll
play
talk about the
the
light in a
normal
second,
Switch
but yeah.
in handheld mode.
Um, but yeah, I think this is fair. I just wanted to get like your sense of it.
Which one do you use, Andy?
Uh I use a kind of Pro controller when playing Nintendo Switch games.
Do you
Uh,
play in handheld or console mode?
uh, the button I press says I'm playing in console mode.
Okay.
Well, Andy is playing on a console because everything's an Xbox with it.
That's true. That's true.
All right.
Uh, um, so so then like Mario Kart came out, but ultimately then like there wasn't a ton of stuff. Like I think Stardew Valley might have had it come out around there. I know Blaster Master Zero launched. Shovel Knight had one of its expansions launch exclusively on the Switch for a few months. But all in all, it was a modest start, but like Breath of the Wild carried a lot of that momentum. I would like to talk a little bit about E3 because so I remember being like going in because part of it was the Wii U era. Every E3 for Nintendo felt really important because they need games. They need games, and they've been bad at shipping them and need a while. And so I was kind of hesitant going in. I was like, I hope they have something good. And then they announced before the show started that Nintendo's E3 video presentation would be like under 30 minutes. And I was like, do they have nothing? No. It's going to be so bad. Oh my god, I hope it works out. That summer E3 trailer in 2017 just might have been my single favorite Nintendo presentation of all time, and maybe the most joy I have ever felt watching a gaming event. They announced Metroid Prime 4, which I'm so excited to see more of this year.
That was what I was gonna ask.
They sure did announce that. But in more, Masada showed up and was like, "Yes, we're working on a Pokemon. You'll see one soon." Um, but we did also have more tangible things. They showed off a new Kirby and Yoshi game. They were like, "Here's Breath of the Wild's DLC. Here's Rocket League. Here's Splatoon 2. We know it comes out in a month. Shut up." But then they had two things. For the event, the finale of the Nintendo Direct portion, they had such a fucking good trailer for Mario Odyssey. Like, goddamn, the Jump Up Superstar trailer was so good. Like a top 5 all-time E3 trailer moment for me. And then
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Do you want to finish?
Oh, you can say what you want about Mario Odyssey's trailer.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, Mario Odyssey was the game that, as I said, there weren't many Switch games, but like Mario Odyssey was like the Switch game that I wanted when it was first announced. But it was like, well, I'm not going to buy for just one game right now because of like my financial situation. It was like, damn, that was a good trailer.
Yeah, and then right after that, because I guess for some reason Nintendo was like, no, we're not going to show 3DS stuff off in this trailer. We'll put it in its own space. They showed a trailer off less than a year after killing or attempting to kill AM2R in the cradle for a new original remake of Metroid 2 for the 3DS that was coming out that fall. And I don't think any of us are the absolute biggest fan of Samus Returns, but it was so nice getting a real new Metroid game on top of that. That E3 was so fucking fun.
It probably was, at the very least, the most... the least insulting Metroid game since Prime 3.
Yeah. Because I think we can look back and say that if Samus Returns came out first and they showed off Federation Force in like 2017, no one would be mad. People would just look at it and go, yeah, okay, it's probably mid. And then move on. But, because they announced a game that fucking burned bridges and we were like, where's the real Metroid Prime game? Oh, there isn't one. Ah. But yeah, no. Do you have any thoughts on that E3?
And there still isn't one.
Also, was that or 2018 the last E3 with Reggie? Because I remember he left early in the... Let me look. When...
Andy, I'm going to be honest with you. I really have no idea. Like, I remember watching like certain E3 things, obviously, for each year, but I don't remember. I could not remember like a full presentation for the life of me.
Oh yeah, I can.
I remember trailers.
I have like every summer E3. I have like I don't remember everything, but I remember the 4 or 5 big things and how.
Yeah, because your autism is spec'd a little differently than mine. I get it.
That's fair. That's a good. Also, Reggie was in president of Nintendo of America until 2019, so I'm way off. God, they threw him in the trash with the 3DS. But yeah, no, that was a good E3. And then the rest of the year, there are 3 games I want to talk about. Well, okay. Pokken, or actually, I want to go over them quickly. First, I want to talk about ARMS, because there's some great music, good character designs, but boy, did that not take off. Boy, did ARMS...
Okay, gotta ask. Who here's played ARMS?
Not me.
Not me.
Not me.
Not only did I not play ARMS, when they revealed Min Min in Smash Brothers, that's one of the characters I don't own.
I will at least say that Min Min is a good design, and I'm very happy they went with her, and not the default Springman, who sucks. He's not a good design. But there are ARMS characters that I like. Um, I want to talk about Splatoon 2 because it is like it's kind of crazy in hindsight that they bothered calling Splatoon 2 a Splatoon sequel, given how safe of a sequel Splatoon 2 was at launch.
I mean, it is new content.
True.
The single player's all different.
Not denying that, but like, was that really necessary given how much like Splatoon 1 took off and probably would have sold just as well on the Switch 2? I don't know.
Are
Andy,
you
I
are
think the
you?
Switch has. I think the Switch has enough ports. Okay.
Yeah, I was
hope
gonna
you
say,
do.
are you decrying the fact that the Switch does not have more Wii U ports?
Fair enough. Fair enough. I want to talk about Fire Emblem Warriors for a second because I remember that game.
Okay, let's one more time. Who here has played Fire Emblem
I
Warriors?
have never
Like
played a
Andy, like
Musou
genuine
game.
question: are you going to go through every single game
No,
despite us not playing them?
no. But I want to go over this one because I remember this being the only flop of 2017. I remember this being the game that nobody gave a shit about. People cared more about ARMS than Fire Emblem Warriors, which is kind
You
of
know,
embarrassing.
you know what Fire Emblem game came out that year that people cared about more?
The 3DS one.
The mobile one.
Oh, that was 2017?
Yep.
Yeah, to say that people care about that one is a little bit of an understatement.
I mean, it
That has
was one
sold
of the
$1 billion.
Uh,
three success. Like, it was one of the more successful Nintendo mobile projects. I think Mario Kart. I think Pokemon Go is the only one, and maybe Mario Kart 2 are the only ones that are more successful than that. That did well for a gotcha. I mean, no one respects
Yeah.
that. I want to talk now. Let's talk about Mario Odyssey. I
Yeah.
love it. I think it is an immaculate game. I do need to replay it because I did not properly finish it because I lost my save file. But I consider Mario Odyssey delightful, and I enjoy most of the transformations. And I love
I,
its big bombastic set pieces and moments. It felt like aspects from every. It wasn't just that it was 64 and Sunshine style again, but that it incorporated aspects of linear Mario in a way that I really liked.
um, I don't really see the linear Mario stuff too much, but I will say about Mario Odyssey that it was like I would go places and like play it in a kiosk and think like a demo and think, oh, this is gonna be amazing when I finally get a Switch. And when I finally played it, I did still enjoy it, and I still do. I think it is a good game. I would never say it's bad or anything, but its focus on transformations, so many of which are underwhelming for me, does bring it down, and especially its reputation as like
Yeah,
basically salvation in gaming at the time. I don't have as strong of an opinion of it as you do. Um, but I think that if you look at if you look at it in like the context of 2017, I can understand people being excited for it. I
yeah.
don't like it as much as 3D World, to be honest, but I think that 3D World was, by admission, much less exciting.
Um, Yeah, I think that's fair. I find the transformations tolerable because one, there is such a great variety of them. Two, you play the majority of the games as Mario, and there are a lot of ways to avoid using transformations. And three, you never spend, I think, too much time in most of them. I understand you don't
I
like
would
being a cheap, but outside of like a rare exceptions,
I would push back on saying that you play most of the game as Mario. It certainly doesn't feel that way. Although, again, like I can't break it down to you in terms of like a statistical look at
yeah.
how much
I would say you play at
you spend
minimum
as Mario's
like
transformations. But it does. There are plenty of times.
Oh, sorry. Did you cut out, or were you?
No, I was waiting for you to say what percentage you
Yeah,
play as
yeah. I would
Mario.
say at minimum like 45% of that game. I feel like you're playing as Mario. Maybe, probably higher.
For me, that is not my recollection of having played the game
Okay,
twice,
that's fair.
like
I
twice
maybe
through.
maybe I also have hazy memories of Odyssey.
But here's the thing: I do like when you do play as Mario. I think he plays really well, and I look forward to the next Mario game. I do. But as much as this and Breath of the Wild formed the identity for the Switch in its launch year, understandably, I do think that there are several games in its library that would surpass those two games for me, for sure.
Um, yeah, that's fair. Um, Lid, do you have anything you'd like to say about Odyssey?
Yeah, I guess I do think it's like probably the most interesting 3D Mario game like since 64 mechanically. But I do also, people have talked about this game to death. You know, there's one platforming maneuver that once you figure out how to do it, it's just kind of your one size fits all solution. There's kind of too much stuff. And
Yeah,
it's not just that there's so much of it, but to me the big thing is that a lot of the progression is like not really explained or doesn't really make sense. You just kind of, oh, I went back to the level and now there's some more stuff in it because I guess I did some things that opened some things. Who knows what they were?
see, I did not do that at all on my Odyssey playthrough.
Like it's
Oh
not
yeah,
even.
Andy, you went, I'm full, and the game went, fuck you, you're not full, and then you stopped playing.
Well, no, because I only got to World Bowser, and then I lost my save file. I have never been to the moon in Mario Odyssey.
I see. The moon is good, actually. I'll
But
say.
I will say the one thing is about Mario Odyssey and pacing is it's just like Nintendo needs to stop doing that Green Star bullshit of being like, "Hey, didn't you have fun playing that 3D Mario? Here's 15 plus more hours of content. Enjoy." It's like, no, maybe like 5 would be nice. But yeah, yeah. Uh, and I do want to talk about the final game of Switch, even though only one of us has played it, of 2017, because I think this was the first point that people really started to realize, oh, the Switch is going to have like first party Nintendo games are going to have real meaningful performance problems, huh? And that, of course, is everyone's best looking video game, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Lid, would you like to say anything about Xenoblade Chronicles 2?
It's all right. I think it has a real interesting setting and combat system. Uh, it sure doesn't look great
Are
sometimes.
you excited for it to maybe
And
look?
that's just the character designs.
That's not even a joke. That some of those are real bad.
Okay,
Yes.
I some of them are not great, but the reason for that is inexplicably most of the characters in that game are literally just designed by completely different
I
artists.
understand you saying that, but Monolith Soft artists designed Rex, and
Yeah, he's good.
I
That's a
don't.
good design.
I think Future Rex
Oh.
redeems him a little bit, but it's still just like, come on, no, I don't like this.
Wait, I need to look up Future Rex.
Future Rex, it's less that he's good and more that it's funny. All right, so we're on 2018. Well, 2018 I think is the biggest year for.
There's no way that Rex grows this much. That's like a 5'2" manlet forever. Come on. Fuck off, Monolith Soft.
See, that's why it's
Look,
funny.
all I'm saying is if Rex had that exact design but had been the protagonist of a PlayStation 1 JRPG, everyone would love it.
I don't know. I
No,
feel
I
like
do not. I
I
do
I
not like the goatee.
I feel like when even if you look at Xenoblade 2, when it comes to like scrunkly like 12-year-old with high energy protagonists, you could do a lot better in JRPGs. He's no fucking air
But
trick.
you know what Future Rex? You know what he's reminding me of? He's reminding me of Larry from Ace Attorney.
Oh, Larry wishes he could get as much pussy as Future Rex.
Yeah, Jesus. Um,
Okay. So
that's 2017.
2018. I'll talk about the Wii U ports in a bit. We'll focus on the games that came out this year. Not all of them. Like I don't have much to say about Xenoblade Chronicles, but the first one I think we need to talk about, which introduced one of the other problems with Switch games beyond not running well, is Kirby Star Allies, which introduced the problem of multiplayer focused Nintendo Switch games maybe not launching with enough stuff and not having great DLC.
So I played Kirby Star L. I feel like
I have not played Star Allies, I just want to
I'm
say.
I mean no disrespect, maybe the biggest Kirby fan here.
Yeah.
So I didn't play Star Allies though until after all the DLC came out, which was free. Kirby Star Allies is, I think, best viewed as the Kirby equivalent of Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has a bunch of it is has so much love for every little bit of minutia from earlier Kirby games, that you can just see if you played all of them as I have. You're gonna see it everywhere, uh, especially in the soundtrack. At the same time, it fucking sucks to play in every way.
I have not played Star Allies, but
7 out of 10.
a quote that has always stuck out to me of I forget who this was, but it was someone at Nintendo or Hal talking about um why they canceled the GameCube exclusive Kirby, like the big one that has the graphics and like the 2.5D one. And the reason they give is that like it was hard coming up with enough mechanics to make a satisfying like dedicated co-op Kirby experience. And I remember looking at Star Allies and be like, I hope they thought of something. And the answer turns out they kind of didn't, and just made an okay Kirby game. Lid, do you have opinions on it?
Yeah, it's really a shame after the 3DS ones that Star Allies is 30 FPS. And I'm also surprised by you saying that you didn't think the game had enough content at launch because one, I think in terms of core stuff, it was fine, and also, uh,
There's too much DLC.
well, it's the DLC's like not that significant. However, there is guest star mode. Um, that 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 sure is a lot of slop if you want it. And it
Hey,
is, like there are characters in there that you can play through the game as who actually do have some unique quote unquote levels. Like they've changed the level geometry to resemble levels from past games, but obviously it's still all the same assets as the base game. There's a lot there if you want it.
And lid, I've eaten all of that slop, and I'm like, yeah, let me get like Magalore gonna crash his starship into all the enemies. Give me, I'll slop it
and
up.
then
That
they were
sounds
like,
great.
"Here's more Magalore slop." Like 6 years later.
So yeah, I mean, like, I think it's fine for what it is. Again, that is a game that I bought used and did not pay $60 for, because it was a couple years later. Um, it is a mess of a game, but it is one that I nevertheless find charming for it, as I said, like his love
Yeah.
for the series.
It is.
Uh,
It is
but
kind of a
we'll get a
shame.
good Kirby game later, so it's fine.
Yeah. We might have even talked about it on this channel before. Um.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just like to say that it did. I was looking at it and I'm like, oh man, kind of wish this released on the 3DS and Robobot was the Switch game, but you don't always get what you want. The only thing that I really have to say about Mario Tennis Aces is that it is probably the most well received Mario sports game or first party Nintendo sports game on the Switch, which is not a great sign because people were like, yeah, it's fine. It's better than the Wii U one. That's all I have to say. I do want to talk a little bit about Nintendo's 2018 E3 real quick. I don't have anything to say about the other directs that happened that year because I don't remember anything that happened in those. 2018 E3, I remember two things. I remember we got like a reveal of Daemon X Machina, which I thought looked cool and then nobody else seemed to care about. We got a trailer for like Super Mario Party and then like a sizzle reel of third party stuff. And then we got 40 fucking minutes of Smash. Um it was really cool to see that everyone was, I mean, let me see if there's anything. I mean, we don't have anything to say about Super Mario Party other than it's cool they made one that was kind of closer to normal Mario Party, but none of us like Mario Party. Okay, we'll talk about Smash, I guess, in a second. I guess the only other thing is, would either of you like to say anything about Let's Go Pikachu or Eevee?
No.
You know, that is probably the most time that I've put into a Pokemon game since the Gen 3 remakes.
Uh,
It's not very good.
I remember looking at that and being like, well, it's cool the Pokemon walk around in the overworld, but it doesn't look. But it's Gen 1 again, and also they didn't even put in the fucking Seville Islands. Eh. Let's talk about Ultimate. Let's talk about all of Ultimate, DLC included. I've gotten to play
Oh,
it.
we're gonna take the whole thing at once, huh?
Yeah.
You, I can start it if you want.
Yeah, you're the biggest Smash fan, I think, here. Or fighting game fan, certainly.
Um, Smash Ultimate has a dog shit single player campaign that no one should play.
That
If you get this
reveal
game,
trailer
you should.
for World of Light
Well,
and the opening trailer of World of Light is so fucking cool. And then it is maybe the most slop content Nintendo has ever put in a video game. They got people so hyped up for nothing.
so yeah, so it has the worst awful single player. It has some characters that I think were bad DLC choices, and we can get into those specifically
Yes.
as we all talk about it. And it has unforgivably bad online. Um, Despite all this, I think this is one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
I've put hundreds of hours into it. Some of that just being like, yeah, I'm bored. Let's just do some matches against the CPU for fun and test out some new mechanics of this game. I think it is really a shame about the issues that I mentioned because otherwise, uh, there is so much love in this game, down to like
Shame we didn't get
little
trophies, though.
animations and references. Uh, yeah, I miss trophies for sure. It is so much better than unless you are like the kind of person who plays melee competitively or likes the specific like menus and modes and frills that you get in melee, which like the events are really good in melee and stuff like that. I think this is the best bash game, and certainly since melee, I don't think you'd argue anything else. Um, it is one of my very favorite games on this system. Um, you can have Terry Bogard fight Sephiroth and Pikachu. It's amazing.
Yeah. Um, I look at Ultimate. I've played probably less than 20 hours of it. Like, definitely less than 20 hours of it. But I played a decent amount of Ultimate. I actually did not, or Smash 4. I don't know if, I know Lid had the similar thing. I don't know if you did, Eli, of Oh man, I played a ton of 3DS version. It's so great. And then you got burned out, so I got burned out, so I did not put nearly the same amount of time into the Wii U version. Um,
I have not played 1 second of Smash 3DS.
that's crazy. So you're telling me you weren't cool enough to get a Smash 3DS demo in 2014?
I didn't own a 3DS until so I
Oh.
bought a 2DS XL when it was super cheap, when the 3DS was basically dead.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. That would make sense. It's a pretty good version of Smash. I miss Smash Run. They should have put Smash Run in Ultimate. Uh Fuck that Wii U game board game mode. That sucks. Um
Yeah.
I think Ultimate is very cool. I also want to say that yes, the normal single player World of Light story mode not very impressive, but they did at least give you a lot of cool things in classic mode. Like they did do that. That's something. You've got
Yeah, classic modes need. Yeah, they have some new bosses and stuff, but that's not what we're here for.
That's not what you're here for, but it's at least something if you're looking for single player stuff. I appreciate Ultimate. I think it plays very well. It's a shame that I did not own a Nintendo console during the generation where Sonic was top tier for like 6 years in a Smash game. That feels like, oh man, that's probably never going to happen again.
Well, you say that it was as if he's not still arguably the best character in Smash.
I mean, yes, but I do feel like I'm sure people are still doing it, but it does feel like competitive Ultimate is past its prime, certainly. Um,
For various reasons, but no,
yeah.
I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if we're talking about trailers, I mean, this is the
Yeah,
game
we didn't
that
get
I think
Subspace,
has the
but
best
we got
trailers.
so many good Sakurai. Um, I mean, I don't want to talk about every single character. So, how about best and worst reveal? Or
I
at
think
least
worse
like
is Byleth.
two, like the big ones. Yeah, Byleth. Yeah, Byleth is the worst.
Not just because I don't like Byleth or Three Houses, or it's not just because of that. It's a badly done trailer,
Yeah. And
in my
at
opinion.
least the Xenoblade characters subverted your. I was like, oh, thank God it's not Rex. Thank God it's
I
not
mean, that wasn't
fucking.
good, but I wouldn't call it the worst because the Byleth one is just
Yeah, yeah.
worse. But God, no.
I would also like to say,
The
thank God there were none of the DLC slots went to Pokemon. Every time one was set up for a trailer, I'm like, please don't be a Pokemon. Please don't be the stupid looking Gen 8 water starter. Inteleon. Please don't be
um,
Inteleon.
Yeah, we did get
it was,
a lot of anime boys with swords as the memes go, but
which
at least
honestly,
no
good.
Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah. I would.
Anime boys with swords are good. They're a good thing. We got Hero, we got Sephiroth, and we got fighting game characters too. It's everything you could want.
Hero's so cool. Honestly, they probably could have just gotten away with putting Erdrick in, because that's the design for me. That is the best
What do you
Tori.
mean? He is in.
Well, I mean, saying they could have gotten away with him being the only one, and it still would have been like, yeah, of course you put him in as the Dragon Quest rep.
I see. I see.
Um, Honestly, like there were like I really enjoyed like the Steve and Sephiroth trailers. I enjoyed the K. Rool trailer. I think Smash Ultimate trailers peaked at the Ridley reveal. That was the happiest that I was, because I fucking gave up hope after Smash 4. I'm like, they're not. We're gonna have to get like Rundus or Silex in, and then they put Ridley in. They put my boy in the game, and he's cool.
And he killed Mario,
Yeah, he's low tier, but you can live
of
with that.
course.
He's a villain. Most villains in Smash games are low tier. Uh,
He's too big, so he's easy to hit.
Lid, do you have anything to say about
Andy, what do you
Ultimate?
mean? Snake is a top tier.
I meant antagonist, but I although whoever nerfed his ass is definitely a villain. Um, Lid, do you have anything to say about Ultimate or any particular trailers that stand out?
Uh, I'll see. And honestly, aside from just checking it out real quick, I don't think I've really played Smash Ultimate like since the month it came out.
Yeah, I mean, we played
I
it
did check
together.
while we were on, and I have put over 200 hours.
Yeah, that makes sense. So there is one thing that I would like to talk about before we move on to 2018. And that is when the Nintendo Switch launched for like 18 months, you got free online. And then for the first time in Nintendo history, outside of maybe GameCube, because I think you had to pay for the adapter, you had to pay for online. We'll talk about the expansion pack, I think, a little bit later. How do you got Lid? Well, okay, Eli, have you subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online?
Yes, but I canceled it after 1 year because it was terrible.
I mean, yeah,
Like, it's not even the price. It's the fact that it doesn't work.
I have
Like,
heard.
if
I mean,
Smash
Smash is
played well
awful.
at all online,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
I never got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so like I don't care. But if the game where I would actually care about playing online doesn't work, that's a problem.
did it upset you when you heard that Super Mario Party, got a big update, and that apparently Modern Mario Party is one of the better experiences of Nintendo Online? Are you like, you gotta be fucking kidding me? This is bullshit.
Yes, it did upset me when I learned this for the first time right now.
To be fair, it makes sense, right? I mean, there's not that much information that needs to go back and forth in a board game.
Lid, as the person who has used Nintendo Switch Online the most, or based here, how do you feel about it?
It's all right.
I think the big thing that people got mad about, which is understandable, is that they only launched with NES games, and then they made you wait a whole year for Super Nintendo games, and they trickled that shit out. You did eventually get Game Boy and Game Boy Color games way later, but still. But they fucking like making you pay for cloud saves. It's like, guys, that's scummy. This is a handheld. This shit could break. Which we'll talk about
I
that in a
think
second.
I think the Switch Online thing for me, it was, I think it was Mega 64, the thing where it was Scrunt for the NES being
Okay,
the
Yeah.
game, and it's like, yeah, those are the games that are released for the it's like we've already done Mario 3, now it's Scrunt.
so I want to talk about that because one of the things that I've done on my backlogged account is I have made lists that catalog. Okay, here is every single game that Nintendo has re-released on the Wii, Wii U, 3DS Virtual Consoles, and Nintendo Switch on. Like every individual game they've re-released. And when you look at like NES, Game Boy Color, and even like all of the systems to an extent, you've got like a pretty decent selection of cooler titles that they have not re-released. There's definitely gaping holes, but there are cool stuff. Super Nintendo is really bad though. There are now like definitely some cool titles that they had not previously received, but a lot of it is just Amiga trash that got ported to the Super Nintendo that they're like good enough. You could play It's Kablooey on. It's Kablooey is so fucking bad.
Everyone loves Kablooey.
Dude. Oh yeah, no, it's dire. So as we start 2019, before we go over the games, I want to talk about the big news story for Nintendo that year. Well, other than Pokemon drama, which is uh the fact that that was the year that it became obvious, oh, Joy-Con drift is a problem. Um, yeah,
I, I was lucky that I've never had Joy-Con
I
drift.
think the thing that is that like yes, obviously it's wear and tear, but I think there was something about like playing in handheld mode or moving the switching between the two modes makes the problem worse. So that's probably why you're better off.
I
Um,
see.
Yeah, I doubt that I have played with the Joy-Cons enough for it to become a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's damning the best thing that I can say about Joy-Con drift as a problem is one, they did lose those lawsuits, or at least settled, and are doing refunds. And two, I guess it's not as bad as the Red Ring of Death was, because that's the bar you have to judge these things on, unfortunately. Um, if you're not aware, because it is possible someone could be listening to this and not know, basically every single launch model Xbox, because they crammed way too much shit into way too small of a shell, uh, broke and is like and it was a time bomb and would just like shut down and display a red ring to show it's broke. And they had to so many refunds until they released a black one that didn't have this problem, and then they stopped doing that.
And Andy, you said it was the original Xbox.
360. Yes, my apologies. Um, so yeah. Also, one thing, since you have one, Lid, now that you've had it for a couple months, how do you feel about the using the Nintendo Switch Lite as like a thing that's controller wise?
It's neat. There is, of course, the inconvenience of having multiple switches, where as with a lot of these new modern platforms that really want you to be connected to the internet, um, only one of them can you boot downloaded apps on without doing a little check-in over the internet. So like without doing that, obviously like cartridge games just work normally.
Yeah, but you do need to do a check-in if you just want to play Mario 3 on your Switch. It's so stupid they don't let you just buy.
Yep.
Give you a markup.
Like in terms of the hardware, it's a pretty nifty little device, but in terms of interacting with a modern software platform ecosystem, it could be smoother for sure.
So looking at the games of 2019, because one Lid really liked the Switch in 2019 as a year, and I'm not saying there weren't good games, but looking at it from the outside, it felt like outside of Luigi's Mansion 3, and I know Eli's going to disagree with me in this statement, every Switch game that Nintendo released that year is like, it's cool, asterisk.
There are some dog shit games on this list from 2019 we'll get into.
We'll skip past the first two and let's start with Yoshi's Crafted World. So I want to talk about Yoshi's Crafted World because for a second, before we talk about the game itself, it was revealed in 2017 at the same event as Kirby Star Allies. So I was like, obviously we're going to get it in 2018. And then it took a full year longer. That was surprising. Eli, you're the biggest Yoshi fan here. How do you feel about Crafted World?
You know, it sucks being a fan of the Yoshi series because it's like one all-time classic in Yoshi's Island, and then from the same developer as this, actually, Goodfeel, Yoshi's Woolly World, which is pretty good,
and one of the few Wii U games that has
this,
not been ported to Switch.
And it should have been instead of making this one, because this one sucks.
Well, it should have been instead of making a fucking 3DS port.
Oh god, yeah, I forgot about that. Some of those 3DS ports, they also ported Epic Yarn from the same developer to 3DS.
Well, that
really
porting a Wii game at least makes more sense.
Yeah, but it should have been to the Switch. Anyway, no, and Goodfeel, like, I really like Epic Yarn actually, and then Woolly World is like an HD but not quite as good version of that, and then this is just a mess with some of the worst music I've ever heard. Period. There is no joy in this game. It is a complete slog that makes you continually. What if like what we were talking about with like Mario games, saying like, well, here's 15 more hours of Mario. What if it felt like that, but like you couldn't progress because you kept having to do the worst missions of all time in the levels that you just beat?
Yeah.
This game
Go
sucks ass.
collect 5 cardboard boxes from the background.
Yeah, and go through the whole level and find them all.
Yeah, I mean, Yoshi
You know what it is, Andy?
has never been good about
You know what
100%.
it
That
is? It
does
is the
seem
Team
egregious.
Chaotix missions in Sonic Heroes.
Oh, that's
That's
lovely.
what this game is.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, I have no opinion on Crafted World, but I just look at it and it's like it seems fine, I guess, but that's not great. Speaking of
I played it, by the way, during. This should be mentioned. This is one of the games I played during COVID.
yeah.
It's another one on this list I played during COVID.
Okay. So Lid, do you have anything else to say about Yoshi?
It's such a shame. It's such a shame. I do think that there's some interesting stuff in there, and you know, even if I don't think the aesthetic is as strong as Woolly World, it's still, you know, it's a neat looking game. I just wish that it was a bit more of a normal platformer.
Yeah, I get that. Speaking of not a normal platformer, Super Mario Maker 2 kind of just happened and then Nintendo moved on from. I mean it sold well. It sold like 9 million copies, which is not bad. But Mario Maker was like one of the few times the Wii U had a game with a pulse. And then this did like better, but not like that much better.
Well, like, so Mario Maker, the one, which I did play, and I didn't play this one, had.
Fun fact about
You could
Mario
say that it was a
Maker
gimmick.
one. Last Wii U game I
Wii
ever
U.
bought.
Yeah, on the Wii U. Not. I
Yeah.
think there was a 3DS one, so I mean Wii U.
Yeah, obviously.
It had like they were basically cosmetics. They were basically skins, right? But like you could just unlock new things, and it would be maybe not the most meaningful reward, but it was just a fun way to play. And when they said that, Mario Maker 2 would be a lot more stripped back in that way and would be a lot seemingly like less encouraging, like a wackiness, despite adding new things like slopes and stuff, it's like, well, I'm less interested. And also, it's like, um, at this point, I'm not just going to drop $60 on a game that's very similar to the one that I played before otherwise.
Yeah.
Instead you unlock clothes for your me.
Ugh.
You know, which
Like there was something about playing as
Also,
you know what I
they
mean?
added other styles, but never put Mario 2 stuff in this game. Why?
that's not entirely true. They put it on Mario 2 Mushroom that lets you play like Mario 2, but they didn't add the visuals from the game.
Did they add all the enemies though? Did they add Shy Guys
I don't remember. Probably
and
not.
Sniffers and classic?
They're called Sniffets.
My apologies. Yeah, Mario Maker 2. I don't have anything to say about Dragon Quest Builders 2. I want to say that it's funny that Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 happened and yet was also a Switch exclusive. I do not know why they did that. Okay. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Well, yeah, I don't really have much to say about the 2019 E3 or directs on that, other than like it was good. Zelda was cool, but yeah. Fire Emblem Three Houses, I do have stuff to talk about. Which is that like, oh, I know you do. The main thing I want to say is that game was really big, but I know that like depending on the path you have, the amount of like finished content can vary, and they did not design that game with the idea that you would replay more than one, you would ever play more than one path, which is fucking insane. But it is also another example on top of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 of like, oh yeah, that lured me into a false sense of security of like, well, big RPGs and third party games might run on Switch, but everything else bad on Switch, but everything else should run fine. Eli, would you like to do your three houses rant?
Yeah, which has nothing to do about performance, by the way, or even graphics. It is to do with the fact that this game, like Yoshi's Crafted World, I played during COVID and it fucking sucks.
You hated it so
Um,
much it tricked you into thinking you don't like tactical RPGs.
Yeah, it wasn't until last year when I decided to, because I wanted to play more Game Boy Advance games I had played, that I decided to emulate Fire Emblem 7. And I thought that that game was delightful. And it had so many things that were missing from Fire Emblem Three Houses, like map design.
Yeah, I heard
Um,
that was rough.
and also, I realized, you know what? Fire Emblem is actually really well paced when you just go from mission to mission with essentially cutscenes in between and some stuff happening, you know, in missions, dialogue between characters. But when you make us do you know, a school setting where you have essentially social links like Persona, it just bogs the game down. It's not very interesting. Yeah, I would not call Three Houses a good game, but I would call Fire Emblem something that now I'm interested in checking out more of that I've played an older
Yeah.
game.
Maybe you'll try Engage from the library someday. Who knows? Do you have anything to say about Three
No,
Houses, Lid?
There's not a ton of Nintendo Switch games that I was disinterested in enough that I traded them back in. Fire Emblem Three Houses might just straight up be the worst Nintendo game that I've bought on Switch.
Given what I have know you haven't bought, that makes sense. Lid, are you the
I
only? Well,
think
actually,
honestly, I think Crafted World is worse, but like I get it. Three Houses is
I
definitely
just want to talk
not
about
good.
this one real quick. Eli, is Lid the only person here who has played Astral Chain?
I have not. Why would I play Astral Chain? That looked like
Because it's a
rancid
platinum
filth.
action game. I figured you'd be like, I might give it a chance sometime. Who knows?
They'd lost their spell on me by then, which is
Oh, that's right. You
2019.
didn't
That's
even like Nier, so that they were it's still on the hot seat. Yeah. Uh, Lid, do you have anything to say about Astral Chain?
It's
And
mid.
also, it not only I know that not only is it an action game that runs at 30, it sometimes can't even do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of performance issues, so Link's Awakening remake, I think, stands out to me of two things. One, oh my god, it's a Game Boy remake that can't stay at a lock 60. And two, it was the first time we had serious, not counting stuff that's Wii U ports, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It was the first time um, that we got into real serious discourse. I remember about like, should this Nintendo Switch game be $60? And I still don't know if the Link's Awakening remake should be 60, but I do know that since that remake has come out, they have charged $60 for things that are much more egregious and not worthy of being $60 than the Nintendo Switch Link's Awakening remake. So it's like, oh man, in
But
hindsight.
Andy, this is the game where I finally bought a Switch.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Um,
So you were still a pretty
it,
early adopter.
it happened to fall around my birthday, which is also why of 2019, and like, and at that point things were more financially stable for me that I was able to get a Switch and then get the game as a present alongside the Switch, right? Um, and I am probably gonna be the biggest defender here of that remake, even though obviously it doesn't run well at points because I like how that game looks, and um, I think it is a charming recreation of a game that I like very much.
I don't think it looks bad. I appreciate the toyetic look that it goes for, but I do see the sides of people who are being like, oh come on, you couldn't make it look like playing Link's Awakening's concept art, which I do get that.
I don't know. I'm almost kind of disappointed that it wasn't more abstract.
Yeah, that is true. I feel like it probably could have gone more in the fake
Yeah,
toy-esque dreamlike dimension, or been more anime realistic, or I guess more like
I sympathize more with like its point of view than I do the people who think that it should look like it's concept art because no, it shouldn't. Like that's not what this Dream Island evokes at all.
I don't know. Link's Awakening manga is pretty cool.
Yeah, but it exists.
Yeah.
You can read it.
The,
A more dreamlike abstract version of Link's Awakening doesn't already exist.
I don't know. I like Link's Awakening, but I also know that I like it the least out of anyone on this podcast, even though I still do think it's a very good game. But yeah, I don't
Well,
have.
now you need to play the remake, and you need to play the remake so that you like Link's Awakening more.
I will say, yeah, but having have that was the other thing is like, oh man, you can't even lock 60 in a version of the game where you finally have enough fucking buttons. Man, it was so close to being Link's Awakening Perfect Edition, but not quite.
And you know what? It's also disappointing to me that like after this game came out, I fully expected for years that they would do Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons in the same style.
Given the assets that exist in Echoes of Wisdom, it feels like possible that they scrap that.
I wonder, and also like a lot of the assets would have still been fine for some of the ones in Link's Awakening.
Because
So
2D Zelda was gone for a while.
Yeah. And that's a game where also you do not have enough buttons for what it's asking you, despite it being very great.
Also, I want to say I like Lid's conspiracy theory that they've had, which is that the switch to that the Zelda like dungeon maker mode in Link's Awakening was made kind of deliberately mid to convince people like, no, you don't actually want Zelda Maker. Shut up.
I like that. That's funny.
I don't have much to say.
Do you remember? Didn't they make it or your dungeons with people was like to use the specific Link's Awakening Link amiibo? Like you have to basically put the level data on the amiibo and then physically bring it to another Switch to transfer
that is
it.
what they did. Oh my god. Nobody does it like Nintendo. Nobody does it like Nintendo.
They've just got real big brains over there.
This is not defending that. It's still it does not have to be the specifically Link's Awakening amiibo. It is any Zelda amiibo. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still stupid, obviously.
Yes. Dragon Quest 11. I don't have much to say, and obviously isn't a Switch exclusive. But it was cool how much Nintendo was trying to push Dragon Quest. I appreciate that.
No, there is one thing to say about this because this is the first. I'd say this is the first port that added. I mean, yeah, like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze added like funky mode, but not that important. This adds. Well, I never played it. Like this adds actually new stuff in the game.
And despite Smash not getting it, you get the music this game is supposed to have.
Yes, and you get the orchestral. And so this has actually been backported to more powerful hardware. So it's kind of, in a way, there's no definitive edition because it's based off the Switch version, which it's not a problem of like running poorly on other platforms, but it looks slightly worse than the original.
Yeah. I think there are mods that help with that, but I don't know how perfect they are.
I'm sure there are, but I'm saying that there's no official. Yeah. Anyway,
the only thing I want to comment on Ring Fit real quick. I don't have anything to say about it other than it was cool that that they managed to find a way to do an exercise game that was both relatively engaging a video game, but more of the point, unlike Wii Fit, actually helped you lose weight and was like a serious workout. Could be a semi-serious workout. And two, man, they so fucking lucked out getting this game out 6 months before COVID. because this shit
Yep.
was sold out for a while for obvious reasons. Lid, would you like to talk about Luigi's Mansion 3?
Luigi's Mansion 3 is so good. How'd they do that?
It's the best selling survival horror game of all time.
Horror game of all time, not just survival.
I'm sorry, just reflectively, I say.
Actually, I think if you want to count it, Resident Evil 5 has technically still sold more. Although that might be true. Nintendo probably outsold it. We just don't have updated numbers. But yeah.
Like it's
I
probably
don't
it's
think RE5 has sold. I think
Yeah.
we looked this up a few months ago and we just managed to
Yeah.
sell for it. But
it's probably the best looking game on the Switch.
Yeah, it's fucking gorgeous.
It's like
there's really only one other game that's contention for me, and yeah, Luigi's Mansion 3 looks fantastic.
I'm excited to find out because I have a few ideas, but I'm not certain what the game is. Is it a game that we have talked about yet?
No,
Ooh,
obviously not. I would have brought it up.
Okay,
already.
okay.
But no, I feel like not having a camera, having these like
Pokemon Legends
fixed
Arceus.
having a fixed camera just it makes even on such underpowered hardware as the Switch, they made this game look immaculate. Whatever my reservations about this game, it has one of the worst sewer levels of all time, and that's saying something.
Yes,
that
that
made
is
me
saying.
drop the game. But yeah, give us Luigi's Mansion 4 on the Switch too, or anything made by these developers that is like a fixed angle game.
Lid, you watched the Mario movie. How much better would you say the Mario movie looks than the Luigi's Mansion 3 cutscenes, just on a pure technical level?
on a pure technical level, I mean, like, quite a bit.
Okay.
They sure are putting a lot of stuff on the screen.
I'm
You
excited
couldn't do
to
that
see
on the Switch.
I'm excited to see Luigi's Mansion 4 look better then. I don't have anything to say about Pokemon Sword and Shield. It seems like the most mid Pokemon on the Switch. The only thing I want to say is it was so fucking tiring hearing people talk about the Dexit drama for like 6 months. Oh my god. That was rough, man. I was listening to gaming podcasts and they were talking about it, and it was just like, oh man.
Well, Pokemon fans aren't people. You have to remember that.
This is true. This is very true. Okay. So 2020. Oh boy. Worst year for the Switch, unanimous?
It's not great. We got Mario 35.
Yeah, this ain't a
We'll
good,
talk about that in a second.
When the best thing on here is a port, that's not great.
I've heard some people say Origami King's alright, and maybe Fire Emblem Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity will be good when the Switch 2 launches.
The best game that came out on the Switch in 2020 was Doom 64.
Nope.
Yeah.
But
no, you know what? I will say this. I will step on this. Clubhouse game seems cool. If I had a group of people to play that game, like local co-op frequently, it would probably be a pretty good time. Granted, probably overpriced, but it is at least a neat novelty for what it is, and is pretty effective.
I think part of why I don't like Animal Crossing New Horizons is because one, I'd sort of fallen out of, being someone who liked Animal Crossing as much to begin with, right? And two, it is a significant step back from New Leaf.
That is what I've heard from several people. However, I do think it is worth asking this question. Has any piece of media ever been as in the right place at the right time as Animal Crossing New Horizon? Because this game came out, I think, the week either of or right after the COVID lockdown started. And it's a game where you go around a town and hang out with your friends?
It was within a few days, for sure.
Yeah. And it came out at the same time as Doom Eternal, so you got all that cute Doom guy and Isabelle art. By the way,
I honestly don't think that
I would
world
just like to
scales up
say, it is
significantly,
crazy that
but
it took 4 years for a Switch to get an Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing fans in those 4 years were so fucking rabid. And I get it, the Wii U thing they gave you was pure slop, but like, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm a Metroid fan. You people don't know real pain, and you need to shut up. And they needed to shut the fuck up.
I understand that. But I'm going to be honest. It's like it's really a shame that this was not the Metroid Dread of Animal Crossing, and it is
Yeah.
so lacking in so many features.
I don't know.
And also,
Shut the fuck up, Lid. I know what you're about to say.
Okay.
oh, what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say I think they're pretty comparable.
No, but when you don't have like mainstay characters, like you don't have the cafe, you don't have Red, you don't have like the hairstylist characters. It's like, yeah, no, you are missing stuff that people like about the
Also, it's
series.
not as
And
big
I
of
don't
a
think it's
deal
ridiculous to say.
because Nintendo Switch Online does exist, but you don't have the NES games. They haven't brought that back since
You know what I mean?
GameCube.
Yeah, that has been a while, but it's also adding crafting. Crafting sucks. Don't make me craft in a game unless it's the ostensible point of it, and then I understand it. But yeah, I was not a big fan of this game, but I did buy it. So
Yeah,
I put some
Lid.
time into it because of it was COVID.
How
Yeah.
as a person who I think has bought all 3 versions of this game, how did it feel to get a version of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 that looks and runs like an acceptable video game?
Still didn't beat it.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't beaten any Xenoblade game,
Well, but it's not just that this is still the one that I've put the least time into, I think.
I was about to ask which one that was, so that makes sense. So you have not gotten to try the expansive and popular post-game DLCs for any of these, because that is one of the things I know Xenoblade fans, they really like the
I
post-game.
I have played some of 2's DLC, but that one's a prequel.
Oh, okay, so yeah, that's different. Um, let's see. I don't think any of us have to say anything to say about Origami King. I will say, you know what I do have to say about Origami King? Regardless of how we feel about it, it looks fantastic and it has a wonderful soundtrack. Like that is definitely, I think, a top 5 Mario RPG soundtrack. It's real good.
It's a shame that Nintendo games don't grow on sale more because
Yeah.
I really don't want to pay a lot of money for a game where I feel like it's a coin toss on whether I'm just gonna hate that combat.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you play Origami King, Eli?
Nope.
Okay.
And I have no opinion on the soundtrack because I never heard it. I will say, in terms of RPGs that I do not want to buy that are Mario games, I could get Brothership from the library, but I don't know if I want to dedicate the time to it at
Yeah.
that point.
We'll talk about that in a little
I've
bit.
heard nobody talk about that game, but we'll talk about it later, I guess. No, I wasn't interested in Origami King.
3D All Stars.
That I did buy.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Did you buy it physically or digitally?
Why would I buy digitally? Andy, I could sell this and like pay my rent for a month one month.
I mean, I don't
Like,
even think that's
this
true. I think this is selling is like normal MSRP as far as I've seen. Like they sold so many copies that like scalping was not effective.
Oh, I actually never looked it up, but no, I bought this and um yeah, way overpriced.
That's not the thing
Um,
that's we're talking about. The thing is, well, one, you know what I will say? Especially now that we have the expansion pack, so you have a way to play normal Mario 64. It is cool they re-released the Shindo Pro version in the West.
I will say this about the All Stars collection. I think the Galaxy port is totally fine.
Yeah, Sunshine's port seems fine, especially once they added the GameCube support in.
I can't tell because when I play Sunshine, I don't know if this is an issue with Sunshine or an issue with the port.
As far as I'm aware, all of the issues with Sunshine are issues with Sunshine.
Yeah.
you know what? Talking about the collection, there is one thing that is like I don't. There is no reason to believe Nintendo couldn't get 64 in widescreen. It's not hard.
There is also no reason to believe they could have done Galaxy 2,
Yes,
which is worse than
which would have
64
made it
being
like 4 Mario games for $60. Yeah, that's a good deal. Yeah, $15 for a 3D Mario piece is like absolutely a great deal. 3 for like 20 for each. It's like that's maybe a little overpriced. But of course, that is not the thing that it needs to be talked about. Timed release. They really went and said, no, you get it for you get it till like what was it? Was it like a year? Was it like till March? They did not give out a long time frame for that game, and then they took it off digital storefronts. And they also did that with the localization of Fire Emblem 1, which is just like,
I can't believe they did that.
yeah, that's even more absurd. Cuz at least with like it's like okay, well you have other ways to, I mean you technically do have other ways to play untranslate the original Famicom Fire Emblem. But like man, why don't you do that? Why? What? This shit sucked, and it was stupid, and it was confusing, and it was arbitrary. I don't have anything to say about Pikmin 3 Deluxe, except it was funny.
I do.
Well, let's wait just a second. It was funny that it took this long. Age of Calamities, I'm sure, by the end of the year, that might be an acceptable way to play a Muso. But oh my god, that game runs at 12 frames sometimes. Looking like bro showed up looking like the PAL version of Ocarina of Time.
And this game could have been a PS5 Pro launch, and it wouldn't matter because it's Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Who fucking gives a shit?
I mean, Nintendo was like, this is our...
Unfortunately, a lot of people gave a
It
shit.
is the best-selling Muso. I think Dynasty Warriors 0 might have replaced it, but for a while, it was the best-selling Muso ever.
And people are stupid. Like that's
People are
doesn't mean anything.
stupid. I'm sure that I'm sure that the vast majority of those sales were basically people thinking it was Breath of the
Okay,
Wild
so
2.
now that we are at 3D World and Bowser's Fury, before we take
No,
a
you skipped right over Pikmin 3 Deluxe, Andy. This
well,
is an
hold on.
important thing to talk-
Let me explain. Now that we are at Bowser's World 3D, I would like to take a moment to talk about the Wii U ports collectively, because until Nintendo showed off that trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles X like 2 months ago, it felt like okay, this was it. They are done with Wii U ports because they did not do it anymore for 4 years. So yeah, I figure now is a good time to look at the Wii U ports overall and talk about any of the ones that stick out. Eli, would you like to start with Pikmin 3?
Sure. Pikmin 3 Deluxe is the best game of 2020, which is not really saying too much because it was not a real year for games.
I haven't played Doom Eternal yet.
But
continue.
Fuck Doom, who cares?
Oh, also
Pikmin 3,
that visual novel that I think Vanillaware made, that seems very cool. But yeah.
13 Sentinels. Maybe I know some people who love it and some people who hate it.
Okay.
But anyway, Pikmin 3 Deluxe. Pikmin 3 on the Wii U does not seem like a finished game in comparison to Pikmin 3 Deluxe.
Oh damn.
They completely reworked the controls. Not only does it obviously look better because it is on not vastly but slightly more powerful hardware.
And Pikmin 3 was a super early Wii U game, so that was like that team's first
super
HD
early Wii
title.
U game. Exactly, super early Wii U game. It had extensive use of the D-pad and a far more passive control. Pikmin 3 Deluxe plays like a dream. I think that it is certainly the most improved port. Like if you bought every, I wouldn't say most improved maybe because of like Xenoblade on the Wii, but like of all the Wii U games, I think this has the most significant reason to upgrade if you bought the Wii U original. out of any of the Wii U ports.
Yeah. The only things that I would like to say, one, it's cool that once Smash was over, how much new content Mario Kart 8 Deluxe got. They Lid almost went the entire Switch to Switch lifespan without buying Mario Kart 8 again, but they finally got him. And
It helps that I never bought the DLC for the Wii U version, so buying the Switch version with the new DLC basically tripled the size of the game.
and you get a battle mode that's not a complete fucking embarrassment. Although you might not even care about that.
And it doesn't hitch literally once every second.
Yeah. I would like to comment on Tropical Freeze. One, New Funky Mode is a really fun way to play through that game, as far as I'm aware, and seems very cool. And two,
as like an easy mode, it's better than most because Funky is actually fun to play as. But is it worth $60?
Is it worth $10 more than it was on Wii U at launch?
For the record, I did buy it on Switch for not 60, but like when it was on sale for like I think 40. And I mean I'm probably the biggest Tropical Freeze fan here for sure.
I haven't played it, but I'm sure I will enjoy it quite a bit. It's been on my backlog for a decade.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm shocked that you still have it at this point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let me think. Is there anything else I would like to? Oh, it's funny that they had to redo Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei's translation because of how rough the original version was.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I don't know how complete
that game's not good.
And they also added a bunch of memes and stuff. Oh, also it was cool they added extra stuff into Captain Toad. That's how I played the Captain Toad for the first time, was the Wii U version. Very good game.
They did add extra stuff, but it is a disappointment that they also took away stuff that was in the original.
Before we go any further, would any of us like to talk about Labo, or can we just move on?
It was a neat idea.
Oh, actually, I have one thing from 2019 I would like to talk about, which is Tetris 99. I just want to bring it up because one, it's cool that it works, and two, none of the follow-ups were as good, like Mario 99 or Pac-Man 99. And three,
Mario 35 was pretty alright.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. And three,
and you can't prove otherwise.
Yeah, because I can never play that game ever. And three, that was that and Puyo Puyo Tetris, which launched within the first 6 months of the Switch's life, were the start of actually getting acceptable versions of Tetris again on consoles, and kind of the renaissance that Tetris has been in, which is very cool. Do I want to talk about Bowser's Fury?
I mean, it is a new Mario game. We have to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we do. Bowser's Fury is the weakest 3D Mario since Sunshine, in my opinion, but still probably better than Sunshine.
I think it's the best 3D Mario since 64.
I know you think that.
Yeah, I don't like Bowser's Fury.
I think the Bowser mode is... It is not it is kind of tedious in a way that it's not just that like Bowser is annoying, I'm not a huge fan of that Bowser track, and it does get in the way. And also I like my Marios a bit more like organized and having clear-cut levels, and whereas I think 3D World Bowser's Fury kind of makes a lot of the mistakes that I have with 64 in terms of repeating content in ways that are not necessary. But it is still a good game. It is still cool. Oh, also the base version of 3D World controls worse than the Wii U version, in my inland opinion.
I think that Bowser's Fury might as well have a text box appear and say, "What a horrible night to have a curse."
I mean, yeah. It's not that far off, if we're being honest. Okay. The only thing I want to say about new Pokemon Snap, since I don't think any of us have played it, is apparently it's fine for what it is, but it is funny that like for 20 fucking years people were like, "Where's Pokemon Snap 2?" They get it, and no one has talked about Pokemon Snap since. Um,
It would be funny if it's like the stealth best Pokemon game on the Switch.
um, I could believe that. I want to talk about Miitopia because it's funny that that was the first 3DS game that got ported, and Nintendo has not been good about choosing which 3DS game should be on the Switch. Um, Mario Golf Super Rush was the first really big sports game disappointment because people were like, "Oh hell yeah, Mario Golf's back!" And Mario Golf is way better than tennis, and it has like an RPG-esque single player mode, and then it had no fucking content at launch. It's crazy. That looks so disappointing. Um, Eli, how do you feel about Skyward Sword HD?
It made me really like a game that I used to hate. And there are still some things about Skyward Sword that, like, they would have to just make a different game to fix those issues for
Yeah.
sure. But I no longer have a problem with how that game controls with the dual analog control support. Is not going to be to everybody's cup of tea still, but between now actually enjoying how that works with using the right analog stick to swing or manipulate items, I found going back to it that wow, I really like these dungeons a lot, and it turns out that that is the thing that I like most about Zelda, funnily enough. And I'm willing to forgive things that are still subpar, in my opinion, because I enjoy the dungeons, which are, I mean, the dungeons are the same as they were on the Wii, but I think they are presented a lot better with these new control scheme, and also being able to shut Fi up, which is very nice. Um, However, if someone told me they still did not like this one, I get it. But
Also,
like a lot.
again, same price as the Link's Awakening remake. Like, I know they added a lot of good changes for this one, but it is still like $60. Come on.
Okay, and I mean, this is another game I got used, but there's also the most egregious thing about it is that they sold it with an amiibo that gives you fast travel,
Oh yeah,
only with the
which is
amiibo.
not, which from what I understand is not like that big of a buff, but it is still like it would be nice if
It
this.
it would shave a few minutes off here and there, so
Okay,
it's not nothing.
Lid, do you have anything you'd like to say about Skyward Sword HD?
I I still don't think I like the game very much, but I will say that at the very least it is kind of like the same kind of experience as like playing the PC port or recompilation of the N64 games, in that this time it's more so the controls than the performance of those older games, but it's like they have made a version of the game where there are things that were just not appreciable in the original version because things like the performance or controls were getting in the way, you know? So they made a version of the game where you can more easily even begin to interrogate what you're looking at, even if I'm still not the biggest fan.
I'm going to give an example of an enemy real quick, which is the Beamos, which are like futuristic in Skyward Sword, and the way that you're supposed to defeat them is by slashing the pillars correctly and then doing a stabbing motion on the eye as you, it's kind of like Pokey in Mario, like you get rid of the segments, right? On the Wii, like your sword swings feel like they would just miss and not do the input that you want it to. Whereas this, I never mess that up, like ever. Um, Other people might not feel the same way, but for me, that was enough to really bring the game together.
Uh, okay, fair enough. Now, I would like to ask: does anyone have anything to say about WarioWare Get It Together or Mario Party Superstars, or can we just get past those?
I don't have
I would
nothing.
just like to say about Superstar. Get It Together seems like a weird take on the series, and it's really cool that Superstars has normal boards again for people who care about Mario Party. Now, Let's talk about the most important Switch game of 2021, and I don't think it's close. God.
Bravely Default
Pokemon Brilliant
2.
We'll talk. You know what? Let's talk about this now, just to get it out of the way. How fucking embarrassing those re-releases are. Maybe the most embarrassing Switch game launch. Not only does it missing all of the cool content and so many of the cool content and changes that Platinum added to Gen 4 to make it a much better game, but it also but it also looks and runs like shit in so many ways, and they didn't account for diagonal movement in so many ways, and it was just embarrassing the state it launched in. And it's like Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet have problems, but at least I can be like, in some ways they are trying to make a like 8th gen JRPG on 7th gen tech, and I can kind of be like, well, I understand why this is having problems. This was just a cash grab, like no other way to describe it. And it's, I think, in the top 20 best-selling Switch games, which is a damning indictment. I hope we never get another
honestly,
Pokemon remake again.
It's the worst one for sure. I think any of the Pokemon Switch games being that high is an indictment.
I'll talk about Legends Arceus because that's the only one I put in any time into, and I know you will as well.
But let's talk about a good game, Andy.
Yes. Actually, Lid, why don't you talk about Metroid Dread first? Just
Metroid Dread's Metroidvania with 2.5D visuals, and you control it with the left analog stick. You get abilities. You see all the characters and species that you know and love. There's a Chozo in the video game.
You know, I cannot dispute a single thing Lita said.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's a pretty. It's a very good Metroid trademark symbol product.
Lid is dumb and stupid. Metroid Dread might just be the single best game of the entire Switch era and the best Metroid game. I still need to replay Super, but I am so happy with so many of the ways that it turns out. It fixed all of the problems that I had with Samus Returns, and then on top of that, added in a bunch of great new bosses, mechanics, and level design. I will say, on replay, sorry about that. On replay, there are definitely points where I can see like, oh, corners were cut here. There was supposed to be a little more story pacing here. It's weird that you have to go to Ravenbeak's ship to activate the final warp thing and then do that. Although the 100% post-game loopback isn't that bad, all things considered. Metroid Dread, I do think the first act is a little weaker in the sense of how few abilities you have versus how much the game is railroading you. But once you start exiting the lava area and exploring the other major areas and start fighting bosses more frequently, Metroid Dread really picks up. And I also like the enemy system. There's maybe one too many of them, but they work out really well and are a very charming thing. I love Dread. Dread is fantastic.
Andy, do you know how good so much of it is?
I'm sorry, you were choppy there for a second, Eli. Could you repeat that?
I said Metroid Dread is so good it made me like a game that has so much stealth.
Yeah, and it's very light stealth,
and
which I
didn't like it despite those encounters. I liked it because they were so good. It's a 10 for me. It is like up to this point, it's the only thing that's in contention is Smash Ultimate for the, at this point, the best Switch game released to date in October of 2021.
I would throw Mario Odyssey in there as well for personally. Lid,
I'm just saying for me.
Lid, would you still say Luigi's Mansion 3 is in contention for your favorite Switch game still?
Maybe, but honestly, I haven't replayed past like the first third of that game in long enough that
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know.
feel completely confident.
I know that feeling. So we're done with 2021, and honestly, 2021 is the start from like 2023, like summer 2021, up through like the end of 2023. I think is when the Switch was at its strongest. So now let me talk about Pokemon Legends Arceus. Actually, Eli,
I want to
you
say
hate
one
this
more thing
game?
about Metroid Dread. I want to say one more thing about Metroid Dread before we move on, if that's okay.
Yeah.
How often does a game come back from the dead as a corpse and somehow exceed all your?
I fucking screamed when they did the Metroid Dread title drop. It it is the most, and the thing is, there were rumors talking about it that they would be Metro a new, like a sequel. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool then if they actually make a Metroid 5 if they just call it Dread? And they fucking did it, and it's so cool. I will say, it's very apparent that like all of the Emmy stuff was probably like tinkered with in whatever they were working on in the DS. Um, but because if you don't know, Metroid Dread was originally the 2D DS Metroid game that was canceled, and like fully canceled. And this is an unrelated project, but obviously all of the like Ravenbeak was not in Metroid Dread on the DS. That is a Mercury Steam era creation.
Yeah, and the actual like AI and how the Emmy work is of
Yes,
course
because
very,
they
very
could not
different.
get that one on DS, which makes sense.
Obviously,
Eli, would you like to get your hatred of Legends Arceus out of the way? I'm not saying it's illegitimate, just get it out of the way.
yeah, it sucks. I feel like as someone who actually did not play very many like seventh gen esque games where it has that kind of Ubisoft esque progression and map markers. I never really felt that much of a hatred toward that game design until I rented Pokemon Legends Arceus from the library and found this game um, insulting, even if I was like literally a toddler in its progression. I also think it looks pretty ugly.
Yes, I will
And
not
I
deny that. I will say it at least, unlike other like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or 3 houses, it does run a more consistent 30 than games like that. But it comes at the cost of some of these environments looking like Hyrule Field N64. Um,
Yeah, especially in like it's not just the environment, it's everything in motion. I think looks really bad.
yeah, I
Um,
mean, I did not play it on official hardware, so my experience is different, but I cannot deny that those models are not great. However, so I did not finish Legends Arceus. I think that its general structure is a bit too repetitive on how much it's looking at you collect specific Pokemon and get that Pokedex total up. But I put like 15 hours into that first hub because the experience of sneaking up, grabbing a Pokeball, and throwing it at a Pokemon to catch it raised such fucking dopamine in me. I also think that all of the remixes on classic Gen 4 designs, a generation that is like maybe the game that I played the most as a kid, like that's great. There's some great remixes. I like how the environments like feel as Sinnoh, and I appreciate that like it is actually like experimenting with the formula and structure. It's not great, and I definitely has a lot of problems. But I at least think that on some level it is cool, even if I have a lot of problems with it. Um, None of us have anything to say about triangle strategy. I think we spent 2 hours talking about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Do you have anything new to say about it, Eli?
I don't have anything new to say about it. I will say it is very much a contention for best Switch game for me,
Yeah.
but I've made my thoughts very clear on this game.
Uh,
Kirby could kill Astrobot.
yeah.
So true.
Planet Robobot is delightful. It is a perfect spin on Kirby doing a 3D style thing. Like everyone who said it when it came out, it feels like HAL has been making 3D platformers for 20 years and it's not their first one. This game is incredible. I have problems with 100%ing and in progression in some areas, but it's really, really good, and it has the best boss fights in a Kirby game, which is a very high set of praise. It's delightful. It is Kirby from. I can't wait for other people to be able to play that game at 60 frames a second. Uh, so
All right, I don't think any other games of note came out this year, so we can move on to
no,
2023.
no,
Andy.
no. Lid has some things to say about some of these games. But first, um, Mario Strikers and Nintendo Switch Sports were both underwhelming. And I remember when they announced, I think at like the end of 2021, they announced Fire Emblem Three Hopes at like the first thing that in a direct, and I was just like, why? And then once again, nobody fucking talked about it. And it's also just like you made a whole Three Houses spinoff. Fuck off. This is boring. Uh Lid. Would you like to talk about Xenoblade Chronicle or Xenoblade 3? I didn't even notice it wasn't called Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
It is called
would go-
Xenoblade
Oh, I guess the
Chronicles
website
3.
is just wrong. Would you like to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3?
That's a pretty neat role-playing game.
I will say it does if that game had a more traditional turn-based JRPG, I would probably play it and consider it like a strong
I
contender.
don't know. As far as the Xenoblade games go, it probably is the most like a normal one, even
Yeah.
if you do still need to like walk around a little bit.
And
in
I
the
also
battles.
know the way that game combines narrative and mechanical twists are pretty cool. And also it has maybe the funniest fucking moment in a JRPG. Like maybe the most like, oh my god, this villain's a loser. How delightful. But that's spoilers.
The thing is, right? I haven't beaten any of the Xenoblade games.
Yeah.
I haven't even gotten far enough to like to the reveal of who that guy even is. I'm still at the point where like because I don't even think I've played this game in like 2 years. But I was still at the point where like all of the villains are still like wearing masks.
Oh
So
damn.
like
Yeah.
you haven't seen like the twist question mark because everything's a fucking twist.
Yeah, the big thing I would like to say about Xenoblade as a series is I would have played it a lot sooner if I knew that every game in the series was not 200 hours long. That is only slightly an exaggeration, by the way. Do you have anything to say about Splatoon 3?
I beat it.
Also,
Didn't do that for 2.
we skipped over it. Do you have anything to say about the Octo expansion?
I'm surprised you keep finding things that we've skipped over and you haven't mentioned Bayonetta 3 yet.
Well, that's because it came out after these two games.
Octo expansion was all right.
Yes, now, Lid, would you like to talk about your experience with Bayonetta 3? How was that final boss?
Oh,
This is the last real game, platinum style game that we're ever going to get. Ninja Gaiden 4.
Probably,
Well,
yeah.
that depends on how much of a Team Ninja game
And-
Ninja Gaiden 4 is.
what a game to go out on. Both genuinely like and pejoratively. What a game to go out on.
Why did they make
Because on one hand,
Why did they need to
on
make
one
a
hand-
Bayonetta game be multiverse themed in October 2022? The time peak multiverse saturation.
I mean, to be fair, I don't even think that it's that bad of a concept. It's just that they didn't write the villain well enough. Like the idea of like, Bayonetta 1 and 2 being in a world where reality is shaped by perception, and then once the eyes of the world are gone, you have a villain whose whole deal is, oh, I am going to flatten truth into a single perspective and make my world. That right, having the villain be like a singularity is interesting if you write it well.
I will also say, this is not neither here nor there. Looking at both the Devil May Cry series and the games that Kamiya has directed, I don't know if I would look like, just from looking at the outside, any of his games have like super compelling villains, and a lot of the stuff that Platinum has worked on that I know he has an involvement has way more emphasis on villains. And obviously, I think like Virgil from DMC3 is like a way better villain than anything in DMC1. But that's neither here nor there. Does Bayonetta 3 play well?
In my opinion, no.
Lid?
I thought that playing as Bayonetta was fine. I feel like even though there are a lot of weapons, I feel like the skill trees on all of them are similar enough that it feels more samey than the previous games. Um, and I don't even really know if I can comment on how Viola plays because I haven't played the game since they patched it and changed all that shit.
Yeah, that seems right. What a shame. Uh,
But when I played it, I felt like Viola was not really designed for the enemies that she was fighting against.
the only thing I have to say about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is that based on the things that I have heard, it is maybe the Nintendo game that I am the most willing to try exclusively on the Switch too. Of like, there might be I thought Legends Arceus played well enough for what it was, and the things that I hear about that game and like the end game, I'm like, oh, that might actually be like an actually good RPG again. But it looks and runs so bad.
I don't know if this is a good RPG, Anthony.
Well,
I
I'll
didn't
let
finish
you
it, but
know. Let me tell you something. I will find out for myself and
maybe it awakens as it gets going. I don't know, but in arguably, it is one of the worst looking games.
yeah. Okay. Oh, one other thing that I would like to talk about news-wise that happened in 2022. We have to talk about the expansion pass. So, Lid, I don't know if you remember this,
No.
but I think I distinctly remember saying to you, because they announced it, but we did not know the price for like 3 or 4 months, and something that I remember thinking was, well, it'll probably be like, because it'll let you play N64 games and Genesis titles, so it'll probably be like $35. There's no way they charge $40 for the expansion pass. They charged $49.99 a year for a single user of the expansion pass. So, Lid,
Yep.
you got it with that Nintendo Switch Online recently. How do you feel about the? Well,
Yeah, it was included with the Switch Lite.
I guess the one thing I'd say, based on appearances, the state the N64 emulation launched in was embarrassing. The way it seems now is they have patched all of the games enough to where it is arguably the best official way to play several of the N64 releases. But it's still maybe not where it should be, is the vibe I get.
Yeah, it's definitely arguable.
It's at
But,
least, if
you know,
nothing else,
I'll-
better than Wii U Virtual Console, which is something.
yeah.
Fuck the Wii U Virtual Console N64 emulation. That shit was dog shit. It's also cool they added GBA titles. I don't know if anyone has like, and they've added some cool obscure Genesis titles, but it is still like, yeah, that and being able to play expansions, it's like $50. It's like, I don't know. But hey, they added stuff, so who's to say? Do you have anything to say about the expansion pass, Eli?
It's stupid.
Yeah, it's
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Uh, Fire Emblem, and we're gonna do like the internet did and completely skip over Fire Emblem Engage because I saw nobody talk about that game at launch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even like people I know who played Fire Emblem Engage didn't talk about it.
Not even in a bad way. It was
I
just
heard
like, yeah,
I heard exactly one thing about it. Toothpaste.
Yeah, that was the thing. Metroid Prime Remaster is cool, and thankfully it wasn't $60 somehow.
No, we need to talk about that more in depth because like that is not just like a simple remaster.
Yeah,
Like,
no, that is a
completely
remake.
new aspect
That is
of the game.
it is
Yeah.
it is probably the most like quality one-to-one, this is a better version of the original since Ocarina of Time 3D, but for Metroid Prime. And it made a game that I was like, this is aged really well and looks and is arguably one of the
I
best
don't
the best looking
know.
6th gen games. And then like that new art style looks stunning. What are you gonna
I don't
It is
know. I've seen people
probably
go over it. They don't, some of the real-time lighting effects in the original don't work anymore because they can't access the vertex information as easily as they could on the GameCube, so like who's to say? Maybe that version still, who knows?
shut the fuck up, Lid?
I don't get it. Metroid Prime still like it's not like outdated in like
No,
every
no, Metroid
respect,
Prime
but, like, this,
looks great. Do
it
you
also again, I don't really have a problem with the Metroid Prime original control scheme, but this is more in line with what people expect.
Yeah.
In the
And they
control
have
scheme.
something that is they do have a bunch of various different modes, which is something that I think is respectable. And
They do, absolutely. But I played in the new mode when I played it. There's one thing that is worse, which is one of the visors. I don't remember if it's the thermal visor or the X-ray visor, but I remember one of those definitely being worse.
No, that's a shame.
I can't. I think it's the thermal.
Yeah.
Because it's when you're in the pirate base and the Metroids escape, that's the thermal
that's
virus.
that's thermal. That's thermal.
Yeah, thermal's worse. Thermal is 100% worse.
That's a shame.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, because it looks great in the original.
But it is it is probably a look into how more or less Metroid Prime 4.
One question for both of Marco. Well, I guess one other thing I want to say before we go any further is it's funny that both this and the trilogy re-released were rumored since year one of the Switch. Like, it's crazy how long people were talking about Metroid Prime HD. But the prediction I want to ask is real quick. Eli, I'll ask you first. Will Nintendo re-release Prime 2 this year in some form?
I'm gonna make a funny prediction that they will re-release Prime 3 because it'll.
That is funny. Also, you cut out after you said because. Eli? Uh-oh. Hello?
Hello?
I can hear you just fine, Lid. Oh. I lost Eli. Lid, why don't you, while we wait for Eli, why don't you say whether or not you're going to hear Metroid Prime Remastered? Or see Metroid Prime 2 this year.
So
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do it.
It is occasionally the worst.
Okay.
Known demand.
You cut out after you said because. Why is Nintendo re-releasing Prime 3 instead?
Oh, because it'll be important to the story, but Prime 2 won't be.
Sure. Why not do
That's
Hunters
my
then?
funny, silly prediction.
That would be the really
What
funny.
if they do an HD remake of Prime Hunters?
Yeah, that's oh god, that'd be funny. Why not? Silex is in that actually. Yeah. They bundle it with Samus Returns. Or not Samus Returns. They bundle
HD
it
remake
with
of Other M.
They bundle it with Federation Force. Anyway, yeah. Have either of you played Return to Dreamland Deluxe?
Nope.
I'm not the
Nope.
biggest fan of the new art style, but it does seem
We
like it
all
adds a bunch of new
original, but-
content to that game that's cool. So I might try it out someday. None of us have played Bayonetta Origins. God. It's embarrassing. And I understand it was partially out of their control. But Advance Wars Reboot Camp took so long. And then it came out and people were like, this isn't great. It's a shame how Way Forward feels like they have fallen off. And also, wait, you know what Way Forward needs to stop doing, Eli?
What?
They need to stop fucking putting Ego Raptor as a character in their games as a voice actor.
Yeah. I know we were talking about the great timing of Animal Crossing with COVID, but this is really just the worst timing.
Which apparently this is not the first time this has happened to
Right.
to Advance Wars, which is just like, oh man, what a shame.
Yeah.
Lid, I'll start with you on this. Do you have anything new to say about Tears of the Kingdom that we did not say in our spoiler cast?
That game is pretty cool, but I also don't think I've played it since the spoiler cast.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't think that's a problem. I'm full, but I know that I will go back someday. Eli, do you have anything to say about it?
Yeah, I probably like it a little bit less than when we recorded, just because like time has passed, and like a lot of it was I put so much time into it that it was I was maybe more positive on it than I should have been in some ways. But on the other hand,
It's way better than Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, way better than Breath of the Wild. Amazing that it does what it does with physics on the Switch. Absolutely. I would give my left arm for a regular Zelda game, which then I would not be able to play with with
Maybe
my hand necessarily.
Okami
But
2 will be that.
maybe it will be, because if that is an open world game, I will cry.
Although let's be honest. Let's be honest. Given that Clover's just formed recently, we're not getting that game till 2030.
Nah, we're not gonna get it for a while, certainly. I don't know. Tears of the Kingdom is still really neat, but it is not my. It is probably my third favorite release of 2023, which was true back when we talked about it, or rather when we talked at the end of the year. It was still my third favorite release, but I'd say the gap has widened between number 3 and number 2. So
Honestly, I still the more I'll talk about Mario Wonder when we get to that, but I kind of feel the same way about that in a sense. But Tears of the Kingdom is really cool. It improves on Breath of the Wild in almost every way, but it still has the problem of and I didn't. And my feelings have kind of shifted on open world Zelda in general. My big problem with that game is that like there's nothing satisfying about the end game, and the way those games are designed, the more you play them, the less fun they get. And I wish they had like more compelling tangible rewards and there was less of a grind in the late game.
I think that the big thing Tears of the Kingdom does is that it actually like meaningfully delivers on the promise of like
Variety.
actually interesting physics interactions and stuff
Yes.
because of the building and things.
And there's the quest design is a lot better, I think, overall. So there's a lot more like fun small little moments in that game. Uh Before we talk about this, I do think we need to say never let Nintendo forget that they released Everybody 1-2 Switch. They were given so many chances to not release one of the most visually unappealing pieces of software I have ever seen. And they did it anyway. And the way multiplayer works online is fundamentally broken. Fuck that game and fuck Horace Showpony, the mascot of the game. Awful,
by
awful
all accounts,
design.
it is the worst game that Nintendo.
You moved, you moved, you moved, you moved, you moved. Ah, okay.
But I do not know myself.
I can't
So
believe ND Cube made that.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about modern Mario Party. It's not that. Uh So Eli, Pikmin 4 is pretty cool, right?
Pikmin 4 is really cool. When we were talking about Luigi's Mansion 3, and I said there might be one game I think looks even better, I was talking about Pikmin 4.
Yeah, I know you
Is
love
the
that game.
scope of it? This is this is a super game. It is there is so much game in this game, and I never felt tired of it. And I 100% of it. It is arguably the best game on the Switch. There are a couple others that are in contention, but it is really and truly amazing in a way that even as someone who enjoys I think Pikmin 1 a lot more than you do, I would say, but no, it's like this is the zenith for sure.
Yeah,
Maybe a
I mean,
little too easy is the only bad thing I'd say about it.
I believe
But
that there is a
like,
huge jump between HD and GameCube era Pikmin, and I feel like I would really appreciate HD Pikmin.
I think you would too. But play deluxe when you play 3
Yeah,
for sure.
probably. Well, I mean that's yeah, because I Wii U emulation is not in a great place, so I mean, yeah.
And deluxe fixes it all. But for what can you say? It's Pikmin 4. It's real good. It gets real high.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Lid, you've played Pikmin 4 a little bit. How do you feel about it? Anything?
It has Ochi. It has Ochi. What other games have Ochi? None of them.
Yoshi's Island has Poochie, who has a very similar energy.
But unlike Poochie, Ochi is actually useful.
Yeah, that is true.
I think every Nintendo character should have a weird dog.
You know, no. Some of them should have a weird cat.
But let me tell you
A
something
cat
about.
is a kind of weird dog.
Well, what about Samus having a weird bird and rabbit?
No.
Okay.
Because she doesn't really do stuff with them.
Yeah, she doesn't really have them. They're just there.
They drive.
They
drive.
world.
They're her chauffeur at points. That counts.
They don't have a meaningful gameplay purpose.
They're a tutorial.
No. If anything, that makes Samus their weird dog.
Here's the thing.
That
Pikmin
feels
4,
correct.
You don't just have a weird dog. You have a rival who also has a weird dog.
That's wonderful. That's great. I don't think a single human being played Detective Pikachu Returns.
Nope.
Yeah, we've established Pokemon fans aren't people.
Yes.
Even beyond that. Mario Wonder. I would like to go first on this. I still really like Mario Wonder. I think it is unquestionably the best 2D Mario since the 90s. But I will say it does feel in a lot of ways a little too close to New Super Mario Brothers structurally for me in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it's bad, but when I imagined what like 2D Mario post like Mario Maker would be, what I hoped we get is something like Mario Land 2, where it is like, fuck you, fuck all the rules. This is something completely different than traditional Mario. And Mario Wonder is still, in a lot of ways, traditional Mario. But all of the things about it are pretty dang good. Even if I wish the game was designed around letting you use multiple badges. Still, great time.
I've been going back through it, and I just I kind of can't believe, compared to the new Soup games, how much of the game is just oh, every single level has a new thing.
Yeah.
A new enemy.
That is crazy.
Environmental thing.
It is one of those 2D games where I'm like, yeah, unquestionably this is worth $60. Which I think that there are definitely arguments, a lot of 2D I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not 2D platformers should be a full price games, but I think Metroid Dread and Mario Wonder are the standard you should be content wise and design wise to justify being a $60 2D game.
I think most 3D games are not worth $60. Both 3D games are
and they're charging $70 for.
Exactly. My only problem with Mario Wonder is that it's too short. I wish there was more of it.
Yeah, I wish there was more of an end game.
I wish there was at least one more world, but that is the best problem to have in some ways, because it's
yeah,
I was just served the most amazing dessert of my life, and it's gone already. but I've replayed it a couple times. I think this game's incredible.
Yeah.
I think certainly the best one since World in terms of 2D Mario. And I'm going to be honest, if it was longer, I'd probably say it is a better game. It has an enormous and constantly expanding sense of variety. It plays like a dream. It might have not to say my favorite number one power up, but in terms of the power ups, like as a whole, it might be my favorite set in the 2D Mario.
Yeah. I think that's
I
fair.
enjoy all of them so much.
I guess my thing with Wonder is that as cool and varied as the Wonder sheets are, I kind of wish the game had a little more vertical or diagonal variety as opposed to like not even like I wish Mario Wonder was harder. I wish that it had a greater sense of escalation as opposed to kind of feeling like, yeah, here's a bunch of really good levels. But again, all of the levels in that game are good, if not great. So, that's a very minor pedant complaint.
And also, like as a comparison to New Super Mario Bros., I did finally check out several months ago New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe from the library, and like that game, it's not just that it has much less personality, which it certainly does. I don't think anyone would dispute that. It feels a lot worse to play.
I have not
Mario
touched
Wonder,
it in a decade, so
it just feels better on a fundamental sense of how Mario's momentum and weight work. Uh, that yeah, no, I would not compare it to. It's really insulting, in my opinion, to compare it to New Super Mario Brothers. I think it's a lot
it's
better game.
crazy also that Sonic Team was like, yeah, ours estimated Sonic game is equal and will definitely hold its own. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Obviously, this was doomed. Um,
And there isn't even really much of like a but people who don't have Nintendo, they have a 2D platformer too. It came out like the same week as like Spider-Man 2 and Alan Wake 2 and
yeah, a lot of good stuff came out October 2023. I think
As
we can
many
all
people
agree.
said, it was a good year for video games.
Yeah, I think I would say 2017 is also a very good year. Probably the best year for games of the 2010s, but 2023 was definitely the best year of the Switch, I think. Real quick, does anyone have anything to say about WarioWare Move It or Super Mario RPG?
nope.
I really like the original Super Mario RPG, and I don't really see a reason to play the remake personally.
I think the stuff they added is cool, and the Yoko remixes are great, but yeah, it's not enough to pay $60 for. Not even close.
And I'd say the same thing about like the Dragon Quest 3 2D
Yeah,
remake. Although
it's a
with that
shame.
one, at least I dislike how that one looks, but that's enough.
It is a shame that the WarioWare Shake It. I think people will probably make videos about that being like, this is either the worst or best Wario Land game in a couple of years. It just came out in a time when nobody was looking at it, and yeah, that's not surprising.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks
Nintendo's
after,
yeah.
it's
Nintendo
not
has
good.
normally been very good about managing its calendar and knowing when to and when not to release games, and that feels like a misfire. Um, it's another code recollection seems cool, but I didn't play the DS game, so I have no opinion on that. Um, Mario versus Donkey Kong. I'm happy that it wasn't a new March for the Mini style. I'm glad that it was a remake of the original. Please make DK94 3. That would be nice.
Or if you want to use these assets and make an all new game, that's also great.
Yeah, yeah. Eli. Well, actually, let me ask Lid. Lid, did you play Princess Peach Showtime?
Nope.
Eli, would you like to talk about Princess Peach Showtime?
I played the demo. It seems like the most generous thing I can say about it is, if you could maybe get it for a little girl,
Yes.
like who likes Peach a lot already, but doesn't really have a sense of what makes a good video game or not.
That
Um,
baby game is kind of a derogatory term thrown at a lot of Nintendo's games and game design, and I don't think, and none of us I think that's really fair. Princess Peach Showtime looks like it was designed to be a game for little kids and not much more than that, which is kind of like a weird thing. What else? There was the Thousand Year Door remake. None of us have anything to talk about. I don't think any of us have anything else to say about Echoes of Wisdom. We said all there was to be said about that game. I think it's pretty good. Nowhere near the
I will
best
say
2D
one
Zelda.
thing about it.
Sure.
I will say one thing about it is that like even if you're not too hot on it, I think we can all agree better than Princess Peach Showtime.
Yeah. Lid?
I think that's pretty likely, despite not having played Princess Peach Showtime. It very much just kind of looks like a sort of perfunctory action game.
Oh, well, I'll talk about both of them at the same time. It's so embarrassing, and like the peak of embarrassing $60 Nintendo Switch re-releases is definitely Luigi's Mansion 2 and Donkey Kong Country Returns. How
I
fucking
think
dare
Luigi's Mansion
you?
2 is at another level of
Yeah,
how
because
dare
at least
you.
Returns is a good game, and you're getting the 3DS exclusive content on a console at 60, which is something. Luigi's Mansion 2 is like, you want to play this 3DS game in HD?
Especially because like people like Luigi's Mansion 1 and then that's dropped in the 3DS.
And there's like 10 other 3DS games that I would rather see come out on the Switch before Luigi's Mansion 2 Dark Moon.
Of course.
Yeah.
I think people have been wanting Kid Icarus Uprising on the Switch since the Switch was announced.
Yes. Yes. Also,
I think
Samus.
people wanted it on the Wii U. Like,
Yeah.
let's be clear.
Yeah, people wanted that on a thing with 2 analog sticks. Also, Samus Returns would be great. Link Between Worlds, 3D World. There's so man, come on. Anyway, also Mario and Luigi. Shame it was a disappointment. Shame
By
that
all accounts, yeah.
yeah. I mean, maybe I'll play it and be like, you know what, that's pretty good. But it seems like at best you're getting something Dream Team tier, which is not great.
I will say it was funny. I remember like the first reviews came in and they were negative and people got mad at that. It's like, well, you don't understand the series. Like clearly when you gave that such a negative score,
Yeah.
and then it came out and everyone apparently agreed.
Yeah. So
But like 2024 was like a kind of senioritis year
yeah,
for the
yeah,
Switch.
it was cleanup. It was here's all
Yeah.
the stuff that we have finished that we don't like from teams that we don't have working on Switch 2 games. It's crazy they did not announce the Switch 2 by the end of the year. I'm still like, they fucked me. They fucked me so hard.
Here's the thing. I think they fucked us harder now that it's like, yeah, if they had released it like a couple months ago, the price could go up, is what I'm saying, due to certain
All right.
economic circumstances.
So we're almost done here. Would you like to do a very quick lightning round of Switch 2 predictions? Namely, what do you think the price in North America will be, Eli?
I thought it was going to be 400 now, before all the tariff shit. Now I think it's going to be 450.
I'm gonna say I thought it was 400 as well. I could see them raising it up to 500. Lid?
I can see that too, yeah.
I don't even I don't even want to think about it, man.
Okay. Let me see. Is there anything else worth I guess what is the game you would like to see most? Or the series you'd like to see most represented at the Switch 2 reveal event that has a good chance of being here? Lid?
Mario.
Yeah, 3D Mario is overdue. Eli?
I want a sneak peek at what Hal's been working on.
Yeah. whatever's going to be cool. Probably the next 3D Kirby. I
Yeah.
would say Zelda, but and like Metroid Prime 4's hype, and I'm excited. But like we've also already seen it now, so it lost a little bit of its allure. Um, I I want to know what the plan with Smash is. I want to like. Are they just going to re-release Ultimate? Are they going to make a new one with half the roster size? I don't know. Smash feels like a giant question mark. Oh, also DK. DK has also be cool to be there. Anyway.
Actually, can I change my answer?
Sure.
I want to see Elden Ring. Not new Elden Ring. I want to see, Elden Ring runs on this.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be sick. All right. Well,
I think,
unless if anyone does anyone have any final thoughts on the Switch? Or I think we said everything that needs to be said. It's a good console. I like it. I'm excited to finally enter the Switch 2 era.
As am I.
Do you have anything to add?
Far too fucking long. It's been 8 years.
Yeah, only the original Game Boy was longer.
I think it's fine. I think it's fine for a console to last that long. It's just
Last year. But yeah. And the fact, oh, you know what we can also talk about? One thing. It's a damn shame that because of like hardware, like the GPU rise and stuff in parts and computer parts, that the Switch Pro got canceled, because the wait wouldn't have felt as bad if we knew that was coming out, even if none of us would get it. But yeah, we might be back sometime in between the reveal event of the Switch 2 and like its launch to talk about that. That video would probably be much shorter. But until next time, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
See ya.